Yeah, I haven't drink coffee. Well, I
All right, great.
Carlos can present himself.
Yep, thank you guys, appreciate it. And thank you for having me and inviting me to this awesome panel. Carlos Andrade, I am part of the Global Talent Acquisitions Leadership Team for NBC Universal. I sit here in Miami, Florida, overseeing and managing the TA department for all of Telemundo enterprises. Been in media and recruiting for a little over 17 years. So again, excited to be part of this awesome panel.
Excellent. So now let's hear about Paula Bouknight. Your mic is off, Paula.
Yeah, that's one of my usual fails. Paula Bouknight, Boston Globe. I'm a newsroom recruiter for the Globe, and I also run our college program, so our co-op program and our summer internship program. I have been recruiting about the same time, about 17 years, but I've been at the Globe for much longer, doing a variety of jobs in a variety of departments. And so I'm really glad to be here to talk about not only what the Globe has to offer, but just sort of in general, some of the information that I think young people need as they start out looking for their journalism career.
Excellent. So now let's hear about Dan Mauzy. You can correct me if I
no worries. Yes,
your last name.
That's Dan Mauzy. I'm Dan Mauzy. I'm the executive editor for news at WBUR. So I oversee the local newsroom at WBUR. It's about 80 journalists in the newsroom. That includes our broadcast shows, like the local versions of Morning Edition and All Things Considered, as well as our digital editorial team. So homepage producers, newsletter editors, social photographers, and then our topic beats, like you'd find in a newspaper. So education and investigations and environment and Cristela. And I've been at the WBUR for about a dozen years. I'm always somewhere in the local newsroom. I got my start in newspapers, learned radio at the Oral History Project StoryCorps in Brooklyn, and then moved over to WBUR. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. And before starting, I would also give the opportunity to Vanessa and Cristela introduce themselves, because they are part of NAHJ New England Board of Directors. So it's important to know about them too.
I'll jump in. Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa de la Torre. I serve on the board of NAHJ New England. I'm the financial officer. And in my day job, I'm also executive editor of the New England News Collaborative. And we're a regional hub of 9 public media stations serving the public, throughout New England. We cover a range of stories on, audio, visuals, digital, and I want to give a special thanks as well to Dan Mauzy. WBUR is part of the New England News Collaborative, and we're so appreciative to take part in this. And I just welcome all of you. We want to do more of these events. We want to make sure that we're developing our next generation of talent, and that's all of you. So thank you for taking, an hour of your Saturday to spend time with us and to keep growing. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, my reception's a little rough. Can everybody hear me?
Excellent.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Cristela Guerra. I'm a senior arts and culture reporter at WBUR, and I was a Globie for 4 years. I came up to Boston after knowing Paula. Paula, I think we met when I was 21 through the New York Times Student Institute. And then we kept in touch through NAHJ and other conferences all through my 20s. And Paula hired me at 30. And I went to the features department at the Globe. Then I worked in Metro. And then I moved over to cover race and equity for WBUR. And I learned radio the way Dan did. And I honestly, I think attribute a lot of my career to the people on the Zoom. I'm very thankful for the work I've been able to do journalistically and the mentors I've had, which is why I think I've made a point to really give back, both through mentorship programs at NAHJ, Hispanicize, J-Camp, and now working with Next Gen Radio with Doug Mitchell in radio mentorship, because I've been doing radio now for about 3 years. These people are invaluable. You'll learn a lot. They've been doing this work a long time, and I now count myself among them as someone who wants to see young journalists of color thrive. I'm here, my video's off, I'm cleaning and cooking because that's what women in my family do on Saturdays. But I'll I'm listening. But thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for presenting yourself. And you are the perfect example of the kind of students we are going to be having with us today. So to kick off the panel, I would like to start asking a pretty general question. And it would be, what do recruiters look for in applicants when they are seeking a specific internship or job? What do recruiters look for in applicants seeking an internship or job? Let's start with Paula.
Well, one of the things that I look for, given the Globe's internship program, as well as sort of the years of experience we like people to have before they start a job with us, is of course experience. So I'm always, when I'm talking to young people, I'm always trying to remind you that you need to be out there trying to sort of expose yourself to different areas of journalism. On my application form, I refer to an aptitude for journalism being probably the most important piece. Not what your major is, not where you are in school as a junior or a sophomore or a senior, but an aptitude for journalism. And the way I think of aptitude for journalism is a demonstrated interest. You're going to put your time, your effort, your love into the areas that you're interested in, and to the crafts and events that you're interested in. And if you're interested in journalism, then you're going to seek those out. So I really want young people to check that out, to work for student publications. Maybe when you go to your home, if you have a local paper, walk to the newsroom or call up the newsroom or send out a tweet to the newsroom and ask if they need any help. You may not get paid for that, but you might come away with some valuable experience. But that's one of the things that I look for, because when you start exposing yourself to journalism, you find out if this is what you really want to do. Journalism is just one of those vocations where you get better as you do it. And if it's not something that you love, you find that out pretty quickly. And you really need to love it, because you don't get paid a whole lot. And it can be a tough gig or a tough road to hoe. So you got to love it. So I look for experience. I look for people who've had opportunities and taken advantage of them, and who have gained a real appreciation for the craft that they want to pursue. I have met a number of students who have chosen journalism as a major because, quote unquote, I like to write, but they've done nothing with it. And by the time they're getting ready to graduate, they don't have anything to show me as a recruiter. They don't have anything to fall back on as a foundation as a young journalist. And so that's one of the things that I look for.
And what you're looking for in an applicant, Carlos, what you can tell us, what you can share with us?
Yeah, it's good. And listen, Paula, I mean, she hit it right on the money, right? Experience is huge. Another thing that I look for, for someone coming into the workforce, is some good job stability too, right? We don't want to see applicants that have worked somewhere 6 months here, 4 months there, 1 year here. We want some type of stability to be on that resume, because it shows that the person's serious about their career, and they don't hop from job to job, right? So that's a big thing. Another thing is really having those communication skills, right? Having those good communication skills when you're interviewing with the hiring manager or the recruiter. You want to make sure that you make your interviews conversational. You don't want to get involved in a Q&A session during an interview, right? You want to be very conversational. I see Paula laughing, right? It's true. You want to make sure that you're very conversational, and you have that, and you communicate well, right? You answer your questions, you have questions ready and prepared, because you're going to stand out if you do all these little things, right? Because I think at the end of the day, it's really those little things that are going to separate you from everyone else. And then lastly, I would say, Luis, is really understand the job that you're applying for. Read the job description, right? If the job description and the requirements, if it says, must have 2 to 5 years and you only have 1 year, you may not want to apply, right? You want to make sure that you read that job description correctly. And, you may not check off all the boxes, but, if you check off a lot of them, then you would apply. But if there's 10 boxes and you only check off 2 boxes, you're just wasting time, right? So just make sure you understand what you're applying for, understand the job description, because also the more you understand, the better prepared you're going to be to have a better conversation during the interview, right? So I would say those are the big 3 things. Those are the big 3 takeaways.
Excellent. And how about you, Dan? What you could say?
So I totally agree with everything that Paula and Carlos said on the job front. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about internships here, just as to vary things a little bit. So with internships, we are looking for that spark, for somebody who's really excited about original journalism. We emphasize enterprise here at WBUR, which can come in both like long form and short form, and also in a wide variety of platforms. So just a little bit about WBUR and public media, like while audio is core to what we do and always will be, our journalism goes way beyond the radio these days. Digital journalism, newsletters, social media, photography, video, podcasting, live event space, and whatever is coming next. But like whatever your background or skill set or platform specialty, we're looking for people who are curious and want to tell stories that haven't been told before, want to pursue questions that haven't been answered before, and who are passionate about public service journalism. And we're also kind of looking for like critical thinking, that capacity to take an idea or a question or a concept and make it into a story, make it into something with stakes, with real people, with feeling and knowledge, where somebody at the end of it comes away with something. And then again, like that can be across a variety of different platforms. And I just want to again say just kind of like what we're not necessarily looking for, because just to kind of break down some myths about public media is like audio is not a prerequisite. Vanessa, Cristela, myself, we all came into the industry and then learned audio craft. It is a teachable skill, and we have a really good history of doing that here at WBUR. And so I would also say, like, if you have experience on another platform, that's also like really important to us. Every one of our reporters and producers is a multi-platform journalist and filing stories for broadcast, for our site, for newsletters, wherever essentially we're doing journalism. And just another thing, just on audio, I also just want to say that, like, if you don't have kind of the sort of archetypal public radio voice, that's also not an issue. Like we want journalists to sound like themselves. Diversity is a core value. It strengthens and distinguishes our coverage. And it strengthens the trust our audience places in us in fostering an inclusive environment in our newsroom as well. So don't be concerned if you don't have that like public radio voice. We work with voice coaches, and their goal is really to make you sound like the best version of you.
I like that final line, the best version of you, of yourself, being unique, that's important. Well, and the second question, it would be, what are a few do's and don'ts for resumes and cover letters? What things students should do and should not do when submitting a resume and a cover letter, and also when crafting those 2 documents? I think you can start, Carlos, with this question.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because when you're starting in the workforce, all you know is what you see on Google or what you see your friends have. So there's good ways to really come up with a good resume. Some of the do's I would say is, you want to go in chronological order, starting with your last job at the top, and then obviously working your way down, right? I've seen some resumes during my career where sometimes it's all over the place. It's not in order. They start at the bottom with the last. So definitely want to be in chronological order. And these are, again, basic tips, right? Of do's and don'ts. You also want to use some buzzwords, right? Passionate, use words like transparent, use words like, I'm flexible. using buzzwords really separates you from a candidate that's not using buzzwords and they're just using your traditional, resume template. It's 2022, guys. You gotta stand out. You gotta use these buzzwords on your resume. So those are some of the do's. I would say the biggest don't is your email address. I was thinking about this morning. I've seen resumes where they don't have professional email addresses, right? They're still having a wacky email address like, crazy football fan at gmail.com or something like that. You want to make sure that you have a professional email address. That's huge. Use your first name, use your last name, keep it very simple, very, professional, because that's going to stand out too, right? If a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to email you, you want to make sure that it's going to an appropriate email address, not a crazy, wacky email address. So that's the biggest don't. And, I could talk about this all day. There's tons of don'ts and do's, but those are the big ones for me.
Excellent. And what could you say, Paula?
Well, there are lots of do's and don'ts. What I would suggest is that if you're still in school, utilize career services. That's what they're there for. They can give you great information when it comes to putting together a resume and a cover letter. There are, of course, templates out there that you can draw from. And you have friends who have their own. You can make your resume as unique as possible. You can do it with color, you can do it with fonts, you can do all kinds of things. But for me, the most important things when it comes to the resumes is, and this is something that I send out to a lot of the young people that I work with, one, be accurate. Okay, be accurate on your resume. Everything has to be correct. It has to be typed well. But when I talk about accuracy, I'm also talking about how you're presenting yourself. Don't lie. Don't put information on there that is sort of skirting the truth. Just be accurate, be clear. One of the worst things you can do is confuse me with your resume, because that is a snapshot that I can quickly look at. And if I'm confused by your resume, I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time with your resume. You're young, make it 1 page. Please don't give me a 3-page resume. I don't have the time to go through a 3-page resume. And usually what happens when something like that is presented, it's presented with, information that could have been condensed. And that just sort of makes it difficult. But also take a moment to use the resume as a way to really present yourself. Let me know the skills that you have that are going to help you as a journalist. And surprisingly, they may not be what you might traditionally think of as journalism, but you all especially have grown up in an era where social media is just part of you. You've learned it from a very small age, and a lot of people don't put that down as a skill. But parse it out and put it down as a skill, because it's a skill that the Globe and every other news company utilizes. They want to know whether you, of course, do audio. Have you done that in your career, or do you have your own web page? And I think that's huge too. You want to be able to craft your own language about who you are. So, in addition to your resume, in addition to cover letters, also have a web page that introduces you to us and to the world. And it gives you a chance to show us all the things you can do. You can put your video clips up there. You can put audio clips up there. You can put graphics up there showing the work you do there. You can tell us about your social media skills and how you can connect with people and how you have all these followers and what your stories have done. These have a place. You can put them on your resume down near skills. You can let me know that you have a website, which I think is cool. But Carlos is right. You want to be able to stand out in some ways. And first and foremost, you want to be able to be professional. So for me, it's, professionalism is through accuracy. It is through a complete resume. A lot of you are, you don't have a lot of experience. And I do want to see that you worked at the Gap. Because what that tells me is that you're someone who, in addition to school, you've had to go out there, get a job, make it work. And I like knowing that about you. Make it as complete as possible. But also for me, the big thing is, showing me your accuracy and the skill set that you have. I won't go into details about do's and don'ts. Utilize career services, utilize, your mentors that you have. They're going to be able to tell you how to do a good resume. The last thing I will leave you with is do not send out your resume without at least a couple of pairs of eyes on it. You'll be amazed at how many errors someone else will find. So please, before you send your resume to any of us, make sure someone takes a look. Cover letters, that takes a whole nother, I could spend an hour on cover letters. Because they're the toughest, one of the toughest things to do. But, with resumes, just utilize career services, be accurate, be professional, and put on it everything that you've done in your career.
Excellent. How about you, Dan?
So yes, I totally agree. So, for a resume, put that work experience up top. And, I know we're talking to people in college or early in their career may not have a lot of professional journalism experience, but like, even if you don't have a traditional internship or job, if you're filing a freelance piece or, anything where you've had some kind of published work or coursework that you think could apply to the job you're applying for, emphasize that up top. You really want to sort of emphasize your skills and whatever experience you're bringing to the table. I would say, particularly for this group, one thing that I've seen a lot these days that wasn't a thing when I was applying for jobs right out of college is like these kind of like inset boxes emphasizing your special skills, whether that's in like a particular platform or software or social, to Paula's point, social media, technical, or like definitely if you speak multiple languages, even if you're not fluent in those languages. And it can also be like a softer skill, like maybe you're a really great interviewer or something like that. And you just want to, like, as Carlos and Paula were saying, like, you want to be able to stand out. And so I think those have been like a great way to showcase those skills. I've also similarly recently, in recent years, seen kind of like these personal statements at the top of resumes, particularly for people who don't have a lot of, full-time job experience. And that's like a place where if you're, moving into the industry, a place where, like, I want to hear what motivates you. What do you want to achieve in your career? You want to, just like with a lead on a story, you want to hook your reader right at the beginning, and I think that can be a great place to stand out and sort of distinguish yourself on the resume. For a cover letter, it really is. It's kind of a make it or break it opportunity here. I mean, a cover letter is a place to really showcase your flair for writing, which is really critical in this line of work. And so you want to be engaging, you want to be conversational. Sometimes it can be a story, it can be kind of an anecdotal lead, or sometimes it can just be the reason that you want to be a journalist and what you want to accomplish in your career. But it should show care, and it should be original. And I know that is like a lot of work, but I think actually, like, once you've done it once, you really can then modify it for a bunch of different jobs. Once you have that kind of template, you're good to go, and you can use it for a lot of different jobs or internships you're applying for. And then just want to agree, have a friend, have a colleague, someone you trust, read your resume and read your cover letter. Everybody needs an editor. Everybody needs a copy editor. You really don't want to have a typo or any other kind of like copy problem in your resume or cover letter. Mistakes happen every day in our newsrooms, but we do everything we can to try to avoid them. And I think showing that due diligence on your resume and cover letter is kind of the best way to, avoid unforced errors.
Excellent. And what makes a candidate stand out during the interview? That for many of us, it's like the most important part of that hiring process. What you could add, Paula? What do you think about that question? What could you answer?
When I think of these interviews, I'll break it into two different parts. One is job interviews, and the other is sort of interviewing if you are interviewing for, say, an internship. I have just sort of different sort of levels of expectation. If you're a young person, especially coming for a job interview, I'll harken back to something that Carlos had said earlier, which is, come in with questions and know what the place, the job that you're going for. Do some research. You're a reporter in many cases, a journalist, all of you. And one of the things that journalists do is report, is dig, find information. So you want to, come in knowing what it is that you are interviewing for. The type of job, the type of place, so that you can ask good questions and you can answer the questions intelligently that someone is asking you. And not just intelligently, but with passion. You really want to have an interest for the job that you're going for. And if you do, then I think you're going to have a better interview, because it's going to be a conversation. You are going to be presenting yourself in a way that I say, well, wow, this person wants this job. They know about it. They took the time to learn about the Boston Globe. They took time to learn about this position, and they have really good questions. So when I'm talking to a job candidate, that's what I want to see. I want to see someone who has an interest in that position. Some of the don'ts are, the flip side of that, not knowing anything about the Globe, not knowing anything about the position. It's also, not having, not showing an interest in the position. It is also sort of the almost intangibles, coming in and, or in this case, tangible, coming in and sort of distracting me by, what you're wearing, the fact that you might be chewing gum, the fact that you are interested in something other than me. So you're looking all around the room, you're checking out what's on my desk, you're looking out looking at what's in the window. But I think if you come in wanting this position, all that other stuff will be set aside. When it comes to sort of younger people, when I'm interviewing them for internships or our co-op program, there's not a whole lot that's different. I do want to know that you're interested in this. I want to know that you want to use this opportunity the best way that you can. And so that you are, you have great questions, you've done your research, you've done your reporting on this, what the Globe looks like and how we present ourselves to the public. All three of us come from very different news organizations, and what's going to be important for the Globe might be beyond the basics of being a really good journalist, will be different for BUR or for NBC Universal. So you want to know the place that you are interviewing at, and more than that, you want to learn about it because you want to decide, is this a place that I want to go? But a lot of times I'll come across people for whom, it's just an opportunity and they don't know much about it. And I start wondering, why are you here? Why are you wasting your time? Let alone my time. Why are you wasting your time? Go for something that you really want to do. And it shows up in an interview.
Excellent. What could you add, Carlos, about that question?
I have to follow Paula after that. That's tough. I think covered all of it. Listen, I was going to say, make sure that, I would say the best way to stand out is just, be prepared and have questions ready. Every interview that you're going to go to at any stage of your career, they're always going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? Right? You want to be prepared for those questions, and you want to make sure they're like legitimate, impactful, like good questions, right? Not, why are you here? Or, why did you join the company? Those are okay questions, but you want to dig a little bit deeper, right? And you want to ask some really legitimate questions, right? Like, hey, can you talk to me about the culture? Or if the company was in the news, a month before, bring that up. Hey, can you tell me what's going on with it? Like really show up to the interview, right? Really be focused and really be prepared to ask legitimate, good questions, because that's gonna separate you from everybody else, right? Everyone else is gonna have basic questions, and you're gonna have real questions that's going to make that conversation even better, and it's going to help you stand out. So everything that Paula said, I co-sign that 100%. But again, it's the questions for me, just making sure that you show real interest in the company, in the organization, in the role that you're applying for. That way you can stand out.
Great, your turn, Dan.
So I just want to start by saying that like job interviews are really weird. I have bombed job interviews myself, and some of those jobs I did not get, but some of them I did get. And so for those of you that like dread the job interview, I just want to say that I feel you. That said, now that I'm like on the other side of the table, I love the job interview. And my goal is really to just make candidates as comfortable as possible and set expectations ahead of time so that we can just have a good conversation. One thing that I try to do in an interview is create some kind of prompt that will allow the candidate to show their creativity, talk about their ambitions, show some critical thinking and self-reflection. So my advice would be, come armed with some examples of some things that you've done, and that you can adapt those to whatever the questions that are asked in the interview. So like think about what you're proud of or important lessons that you've learned and how you learned them. And then just put those to use wherever you can in the interview. For instance, hearing from a candidate about something that like didn't work out, and here's what I learned from that experience, and why I think this thing failed. That's awesome. Like failure is a part of growth. Failure is a sign of ambition. And I just agreed here, candidates really stand out for the questions they ask. Ask what you really want to know. We are looking for people who are inquisitive, who will ask searching questions, and it shows what you care about. Like Carlos said, if you ask about workplace culture, it shows me that you care about workplace culture. And like, don't worry if you make me fumble an answer. Like, I really appreciate when a candidate starts interviewing me and sort of flips the table there. And lastly, just agreed with Paula, like take the time to know what we do. It shows, enthusiasm and diligence. You don't need to like stay up all night reading every piece we've written or produced, but you should familiarize yourself with our coverage, and come with some kind of feedback, whether it's things that you liked or like if you see gaps, like that's also great. It shows like really like that kind of critical thinking. So
Great. Well, students, now you can all ask your questions. If you're really interested in asking some, just put your thumbs up so I can call your name and you can ask what you think, what you really would like to get an answer from. So let's start with Joshua. I think that's
Luis, I think there's a question in the chat also.
Oh, excellent. Okay. I think this question was first. So let's first ask this question and then Joshua can go and ask his question. So this question says, are you more likely to do a Zoom interview before having an in-person interview these days? That's an interesting question.
I will jump in
yes.
to say, yeah, I can't remember the last time we did an in-person. It was a long time. It's been a long time since we did an in-person interview. Hopefully we'll get back to those someday soon. But yes, we all do everything over Zoom or phone calls. I've had phone calls, which are like, I've really taken the phone back up in the pandemic.
Yes, same here at NBCU. I mean, we've had Michael, right? Mercer, Michael, we've had no choice but to do video interviews, right? Just because people weren't actually even allowed to come into the building the past year and a half, almost 2 years. But things are slowly, gradually going back into the office, and things are, we're working in a hybrid model now in terms of a schedule, and so things are changing. Things are looking up, and people will start coming back into the office now. So don't be surprised if next month, if you go for an interview, you'll be in the office, right? It just all depends on the company and how our world is, changing and adapting to the pandemic. But to answer your question, yeah, we had no choice but to kind of do the video virtual interview, for the past, year and a half.
Same here. They have been interesting, and a lot of what we are talking about when it comes to interviews. Some of that's been thrown out the window. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we go back to in person.
Interesting. Well, now, Joshua, you can ask your question.
Hi, thank you all for being here. I wanted to ask, after the interview, after the cover letter, and let's say, you as a recruiter wants to offer one of us, a position, a full-time job, for example, how do you go about as that applicant, negotiating things like salary in that type of conversation? How does that operate?
Well, it's easy for me. That's not my role. That is the senior management, depending on what the job is, the senior management and HR. But it's definitely, if you are, going into a job, you certainly can ask those questions. You have expectations. It's not a bad thing to ask those questions. A lot of places, I know the Globe has we have a contract that has a scale of pay, and we're a union shop. So that would be where we start. But I think it's something that you can ask as a job candidate, especially one that has been offered a position.
So we also, it depends on the job. We're also a union shop. We're SAG-AFTRA in the newsroom, which means that there is a lot of minimums for jobs, which is great to, like, in terms of added transparency. And I try to set those salary expectations early in the process, particularly for some of our more senior positions. But I would also say that, like, while there are minimums for all of the producer, reporter, editor roles, there is no ceiling, and they move up with experience. What we do is we look at a candidate's experience, and we look across all of the similar roles within the organization and apply an equity analysis then, so that it arrives at a formula which we then kind of explain to each candidate to, like, how we are coming to a particular salary. So also with that equity analysis, it means that we don't have a tremendous amount of flexibility because we don't want to be throwing off that equity. But there are other negotiating ways too here, whether it's moving expenses, signing bonuses. There's, like, other things that you could talk about in a salary negotiation here. And I would encourage you to have those conversations early in the process too, just to make sure that, like, everybody's playing on the same field.
Yeah, Joshua, to Dan's point, we set expectations right at the beginning. During our first initial pre-screen phone calls with the candidate, we always want to find out what their salary expectations are. And as long as they're aligned with the range of the job that they're applying for, we can, and they obviously, check off all the boxes and have the other skills that we're looking for the role, then we continue the conversation. If for some reason the candidate is out of the range, we like to be transparent here at NBC and just pretty much, let them know, hey, unfortunately, you're out of the range. It's not going to work, right? So again, to Dan's point, we like to set those expectations right at the beginning of the first interview, just to make sure that we don't waste anyone's time and everyone's aligned with the salary and everyone's in the same ballpark, and we can continue with the conversations.
Great. So Alberto, ask your question to our panelist.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for running this panel. That was really nice. So my question is, I remember Carlos said earlier about keeping your experience in chronological order. My question would be, because I just recently applied for a position at a company in which I have experience before. A couple of years ago, I interned there. And although I didn't change my resume to include that higher up, because I've done more things since, my question was, if a person has previous experience at that company, would it then make sense to make the resume non-chronological?
And I'm going to assume it's a question for me, right? So yeah, I mean, listen, there's ways that there's different formats that you can put a resume, and you can do it where if you want to make that specific job stand out, you can put it right at the top and maybe just make it its own field, like internships, right? Right under your header, you put internships, and then you start your professional experience. So if you want to really brag about that, That's fine. You can put it at the top. But if you don't have that many jobs and it fits on one page, I think someone else mentioned that. Put it somewhere where it is in order. But if you want, I don't think there's anything wrong with you putting it at the top, just making it its own section, calling it internship. That way they can see right off the bat that, hey, this guy worked with us before, he interned with us before. Because honestly, Alberto, recruiters take about 10 seconds to look at a resume. It's a fact, right? So in those 10 seconds, you got to stand out. And this market is super competitive right now. So if that's going to help you, and if you feel that that's going to help you stand out by putting it right at the top and making it its own field, go for it. Go for it. I would definitely do that. And good luck.
Thank you very much. It's to be transparent, it's a job in sports. And I'm a sports journalist at my school right now, but it's a job with an MLS team in Orlando City. So it's a bit different, right? It's not traditional journalism, but it is a reporting job for the team. So it's a little different than what I'm used to, but like I said, I interned with them before, and hopefully they see that. And I've reached out to the people that I connected with on LinkedIn from back then. So hoping for something good.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you intern, I'm hoping that when you intern, or when anyone interns, you start building relationships with some of the key players in that company, right? You do network, you build a pipeline of not a pipeline, you build a network, right? LinkedIn, you build some relationships there. So it doesn't hurt to also reach out to some of these people that you've met during the internship and say, hey, FYI, I applied for this job, right? Because you've already had that relationship during the internship. So use your networking capabilities, man. Use your resources that you have, because that's definitely going to help you.
Thank you.
I'd actually like to talk a little bit about that because Carlos is right. This industry, especially when it comes to getting a job, getting an internship, is about networking. And if you have done an internship somewhere, that should be, and you liked it, and they liked you, you had a good time, it's someplace that you wouldn't mind going back to, you definitely should be looking at the places where you've been. I know, I get the question a lot of times, well, where should I start? You start where you've been. And the reason for that is you'll build on the experience that you had. You have the built-in network. Hopefully, you got to know some people there, specifically the head of the department where you've been and where you want to go back. But you definitely should utilize that. And Alberto, they should probably know you already, but reach out to them, send them emails, send the person who hired you, your updated resume directly, but you want to use the connections that you make. Especially as a young person, that's gold. Christella talked about a little earlier when we first started. She mentioned that she and I had met when she was 21 years old, and she was someone that I had worked with at that time, the New York Times Student Journalism Institute, and who I just kept in touch with, and who I knew I wanted to hire someday. A lot of the people who were in that program alongside her, I hired as interns. As a recruiter, this is what you do. Networking is the foundation of what you do as a recruiter. You make connections, you continually try to reach out, but it's also, it's important for you as the student, as the intern, as the young graduate, to reach out to us, people where you who have helped you get the internship, people who were at the place that you worked. I can't stress enough that networking and those connections, it's really important. That's why you also want to connect with Carlos and Dan and I. You now have a connection with us, and make sure that you stay in touch.
Excellent. Would you like to add something, Dan, before going to the next question?
No, I think Carlos and Paula both I agree with everything just shared.
Excellent. So now let's hear Mihal. I think that's her name. You can correct me. Yeah, I think we can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Can you hear me now?
Now, excellent. Now I hear you.
Okay. So I'm wondering about opportunities for undergraduates who are still in their sophomore and junior year? I know that usually these positions are for seniors or those who have just graduated, and I'm wondering like what recommendations you have for younger undergraduates about how they can prepare for these internships, or like what they should really be prioritizing at that like younger age.
I love when I hear from freshmen and sophomores. A lot of times you may not have the experience, but at least we can chat and I can give you an idea. What I would say, if you are interested in journalism and you're just getting on campus, just so that you know this is something that you want to do, hook up with one of the student publications that are available to you. I'm amazed at how many different types of publications there are, and how you can be like on the newspaper, but also be doing podcasting and audio and video. It's an opportunity for you to figure out if this is what you really want to do. Journalism is kind of a tough situation in that you have to go out and talk to strangers. You have to get information and then learn as much about it as you possibly can so that you can actually speak about it to someone else who may not know anything about it. It's something that takes time and effort and doing it over and over again. So I would say if you're young, you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you're just starting to figure out if this is what you want to do, take advantage of what is right at your fingertips. Take advantage of those student publications. Take advantage of the college programs that career services may be able to tell you about. We have at the Globe, we have both an internship program, but we also have a co-op program, which is sort of like a stepping stone to our internship program. Just expose yourself to as many opportunities as possible. And I will say, don't wait until you're a senior. Please, please don't wait until you're a senior to start doing this. I've run into too many journalism majors who are seniors who just ran out of time. Start early. I think it's great if you are a sophomore and you're asking these questions because it's exactly what you should be doing, looking for opportunities. The Globe's programs, we take sophomores, we take juniors, we take seniors. And I've been wowed by a freshman or two. But you want to right now give yourself, take advantage of as many opportunities as you can find, especially as a young person. You are in the best position as a young person to be doing this. You don't want to wait until you are ready to graduate.
I totally agree. I'd say just quickly, same for our internships. We don't restrict them to just seniors, senior undergrads. And that's both during the school year, but also during the summer as well. And I just agree, like you want to be building clips however you can too for your portfolio. So if that's with the student newspaper, or I think we've learned in the pandemic that like you can report from anywhere. You don't need to have boots on the ground. I mean, it depends on what type of reporting you're doing, but it's possible to be filing for an outlet where you aren't. So like I would look for freelance opportunities and try to build that portfolio of clips in that way.
I just want to piggyback on what Dan said. I have been amazed during these 2 years at how creative and resourceful college students have become. I have learned about a lot of different publications and outfits and outlets that I had not heard of. I don't know where you found them, but I think it's great that you did. And they're not just about news. The great thing about what you're interested in, journalism, is that all of the skills are transferable, all of them. Connecting with someone, communicating with someone, asking someone good questions, good follow-up questions, being able to communicate that, whether it's by video, audio, or writing it. These are skills that you can use in any and every profession. And so what I've been amazed at where students have gotten experience. Be creative. Ask your friends, who had opportunities. Check out websites, journalism websites, marketing websites, anywhere where communication is a piece of it, and you'll find opportunities.
Excellent. But would you add to like something, Carlos, before ending this question?
No, I think that's great. I mean, to everyone's point, be proactive, be proactive, start now, right? Don't wait. The time is now. So if you can get creative and build your portfolio and get your work samples ready and start being proactive today, that way you can, obviously you plan today so you can have a better tomorrow, right? So start now, don't wait, because once that time comes, you'll be ready to go. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? You're gonna stand out more than everyone else because it's competitive out there. It's really competitive right now. 2 years ago, we would post an internship job or any job, we would get 150, 200 applicants. Today, we post that same job or that same internship, you're looking at 300, 400, 500 applicants. So it's just a super competitive market. And I can only speak for NBCU, right? I don't know the bandwidth or the amount of people that are applying everywhere else, but for us, it's super competitive, super busy. So start now, because it's going to give you a better shot to landing that job tomorrow.
Excellent. And we are going to end with this last question that I have in the chat. And let's try to keep the answers short, because we want to respect everyone's schedules today. And it would be, what would you recommend? Okay, would you recommend an intern or entry-level candidate always list a college professor or advisor as a reference? What would you answer to that question, Paula?
Well, on our internship program, we do ask for 3 references, and usually what I want are references of people who have worked with you, because of the types of questions I'm going to ask. But I know from doing surveys that professors are really important to young people in getting them even interested in doing our internship. So if you have a professor who has been a profound person in your journalism career and can really speak to me about what they've seen as your growth as a journalist, sure, put them on there.
I would just say follow the instructions, because it really depends on the role. So like if it does say, like Paul's saying, if it says put references in, but I would put them in, because sometimes those get overlooked, and can be a sign of kind of not following through, which is kind of a flag. But I would say, like, for some jobs, I'm checking references after we've gone through the interview. So I'm not asking for references up front, in which case you don't need to. Some people do. It's not a good thing or a bad thing either way. So I just would and if you don't know, I would reach out to the hiring manager and ask too, and get clarification.
Yep, same here, guys. I mean, if the company is asking for it or someone's asking for it, then yeah. But I have mixed feelings about references. My opinion is, I'm going to ask you for a list of 3 people that you're going to give me, that I'm going to call, and obviously they're going to give me great references about you, right? So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But at the same time, if the company's asking for it, then yeah. I mean, if you have a good reputation and that someone in a high level is going to give you a great reference to help you get a job or help you get a position somewhere, absolutely use it. Yeah, you again use all your resources that you can to help you stand out. So,
and I'd like to just piggyback on something that both Carlos said and then something else that Dan said. No, don't just put someone down as a reference. Know that they're going to give you a positive reference. Okay, just because you've come across them doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do that. You do not want to surprise people, and you do not want to be surprised yourself with a bad reference. And Dan mentioned that you put those on there if that's what the application calls for. Really important that you follow the directions of the application. Dan said that very quickly, and I was like, wait a minute, I think we need to focus on that. Sometimes I get applications where people have not read through the whole thing, and my application form is 1 page. Read through it, do everything that's asked of you, add more if you want to, but please do what we're asking of you, because it does reflect badly on you if you don't. And sometimes I'm not going to follow up with you to try and get that information. You're just going to go into a bin where doesn't follow instructions, and you don't want to be that person.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for connecting today to this panel. I think it was a very good conversation with a lot of useful feedback. Those who maybe are shy and didn't want to ask their questions, feel free to reach out to our panelists. If they want to, they can drop their emails at the chat so you can reach out to them individually. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be posting hopefully this conversation on our NHJ New England YouTube channel and also at our Facebook group. And for those that are not members of NHJ, it's the moment to be a member of NHJ and applying to all our scholarships, internships, and so on. NHJ has been very useful for me and other young reporters, and also for many of us that already work in the field. So please take advantage of all these opportunities. And if I can end with something, maybe I'm not the correct person to give this tip, but always be unique, always be yourself. Let the recruiter know your biases, where you come from, like everyone has its unique flavor. So embrace that, and because that's truly important. Don't pretend to be somebody else, because the recruiter is going to really appreciate that the naturality somehow during that interview process. So yeah, that was the short tip.
Great tip, Luis.
Thank
That
you.
was awesome. That was awesome. It was such a pleasure to be part of this panel today, guys. I dropped my LinkedIn handle on the chat, so you guys are welcome to send me a request and let's connect and network. And if you guys ever have any questions, I'm always available. So thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'm on LinkedIn also. I threw my email in there. Reach out. I do want to network with you.
Same here. My email and I dropped our jobs page and internship and fellowship page in the chat as well. But please feel free to reach out anytime. It's great. Thank you all for the chance to participate in this.
That's great. Excellent. Well, enjoy all your weekends and spring break possibly. Bye.
I wish.
Take care, guys.